Okay, so I'm at mum's at the moment, and it is the 4th of November 2016. And so this year's been kind of crazy. It's gone really fast. I started out in Spain for the first 4 months. Pollen was still bothering me, not as badly as it has done in the past. I was finishing off my master's degree. And doing some freelance writing work. I find it really hard to speak out loud, to think out loud. I find it really hard to speak what I'm thinking. I find it much easier to write. The thing is, I've got loads more practice of writing rather than speaking now, and so I feel like this is actually kind of good practice, because when I'm doing presentations and stuff, I can't actually think on the spot. Like if I was writing, I'd be better off typing to a class I was presenting to, like typing the words and then they could read them on the screen rather than speaking. I can't actually think when I'm speaking. Anyway, so this is why I'm practicing. So I started off the year in Spain, 4 months. Training was going pretty well. I actually went for a week to Sitges, which is near Barcelona, and did this thing with a cycling magazine that I was thinking of working with, which was kind of fun, but kind of pointless because it just turned out that there was no money in the project, and so they kind of didn't want to pay us, which was insane. Anyway, that was kind of interesting. Met some cool people, and then I was in Spain for 4 months. Was really enjoying training. Actually started Zone 2 training for the first time ever. So I've never actually done proper Zone 2 before. And because I was getting nosebleeds when I was doing anything higher than Zone 2, I was actually kind of forced into doing Zone 2. But I realised that you can get pretty much as strong by just doing Zone 2. So that was really cool to discover that. I also discovered listening to podcasts while I was riding, which was just a game changer for long rides and a game changer for long tempo. So for example, riding this climb called the Margarita near where I live in Spain, it was amazing to be able to listen to a podcast. And yeah, maybe it's slightly more dangerous, I don't know, but there's one car. You see one car every 3 hours when you're riding in that area in Spain. So yeah, I'm happy to listen to a podcast while I'm riding, safety wise. So yeah, that was awesome finding out about podcasts. I also, during that time in Spain, discovered meditation, and that was partly, I think, was that partly due to listening to podcasts? I don't know. Probably. Anyway, so I got the Headspace app / I don't have a smartphone, so it's not an app, but I got it on my computer. I paid for it so that I could meditate, and then I got really into meditating every day, which was awesome. So all that was really cool, and basically I was just really refining my daily routine of how I work and how to be the most effective worker I can be, which I'm kind of obsessed with, because I really just don't believe in working any more than you have to work. I think it's bollocks. I think it's like training. So when you're training for an athletic event, if you train too much, it's junk. So basically, junk means it's not only taking up your time when you don't need to, it's actually having a negative effect. So you're making yourself more tired, but you're not actually making yourself stronger. And that's the actual antithesis to athletic training, because tiredness is the enemy. You want to be as sprightly as possible for every training session without becoming exhausted. So I'm trying to make my work for academic and writing work as effectively as, at the same time as making my athletic training as effective as possible. So that was really interesting. And so I developed a daily routine that was awesome. Didn't have very many guests this year for some reason. Normally we rent out rooms in our apartment. Myself and my partner Ali rent out rooms in our apartment in Spain to cyclists, and there weren't many people who wanted to come out. But my brother and his partner and their babies and my nephew came out for a week, and that was awesome. And my mum was with them as well, so I got to do a little bit of climbing outside. So that was really cool. So anyway, Spain in general, the summary was, also, Ali and I were doing this thing called Van Ventures. So basically in Spain, it's Groundhog Day. Every single day could be exactly the same. But the problem is that day is a really good day. If I was to choose my ideal day, one of those days would be close to being my ideal day. But the problem is when you repeat that for 4 months, um, you get pretty like isolated. So part of the problem with that day is it's not very social at all. I don't really know anyone out there, and I'm like, I probably should have made more of an effort. I don't speak Spanish, which is terrible. But all that aside, the fact is I am isolated out there, or I was for that 4 months. So I end up feeling like, oh my god, I haven't seen another human to speak to for like 8 weeks. That's not acceptable. Also, I got a free pass for a week for the gym slash spa, like swimming pool, so that was awesome. So I basically just went in the evenings and like battered myself with those water massage fountain things, and then lay on these like warm chairs that they have. It's like a sun lounger but indoors, and it's like a bit slightly warm, so like you just lie there and you're really warm, like dry off. It's really nice. Anyway, Spain in general. Oh yes, Van Ventures. So in order to sort of appease the monotony of Spain, Ali and I started going off in the van every Monday and like basically eating lunch somewhere and like going for a little walk maybe, or like just exploring, so that we weren't just doing exactly the same thing every day for 4 months. So yeah, that was awesome. Training went well, enjoyed it. Then at the end of April, drove back to the UK, and then I had 8 weeks before my master's project. Did I? So my master's project had to be handed in on the 19th of June, which was my birthday. Not ideal. Anyway, so I had about 8 weeks. So instead of house sitting or something, I wanted to be basically I wanted during that period of time when I knew it was going to be vaguely stressful to finish my master's project, I wanted to reduce stress. This is my new anti-exhaustion life plan. I wanted to live somewhere where I could have as little stress as possible. So a house sit would mean that there's the slight stress that the house owner might come back, or like, you might not be able to continue living there. B, you've normally got jobs to do, like looking after the animals or whatever, which is the whole point they've got a house sitter. And C, I wouldn't be super near to like Ted and stuff, because that's my nephew. And so I wouldn't be able to see him, which was one of my goals of being in the UK, was to like see family, and especially Ted, because he's growing up super fast and he's like 1.5 or something. He's almost 2 now. Back then he was 1.5. And so also when you're house sitting, you obviously can't spend the night anywhere else. So I wouldn't have been able to go and visit friends in Edinburgh or anything. So anyway, I made the executive decision to stay at my mum's house for 8 whole weeks, which is not ideal because I do not love living at my mum's house. I'm 28. So, executive decision, live at mum's for 8 weeks, finish my master's project. As it turned out, for quite a big period of that time, Ali's parents were away, so he and I both stayed at their house, which is next door to my nephew, so that was awesome. Got into a really good work routine, really actually enjoyed finishing my master's project, which is awesome. So yeah, I was really enjoying that. Also was getting some more freelance science writing, what I call actual science writing. So rather than just writing for like health magazines or whatever, I was writing some articles for the NHS about the work that some medical professionals are doing in NHS hospitals, the research they're doing to promote that. So that was really cool. Was in a really good routine, managed to maintain. So my like new thing is like consistency. So with both work and training for cycling, rather than I did 8 hours tracked time, so I track my time with a little stopwatch thing, work in a day, which is a hell of a lot. Doing and then like having an entire day where you do barely anything because you're exhausted, doing like 3 hours every goddamn day, and that adds up to a crap load more in a year than it would add up to if you tried to do loads more than 3 hours a day, and then you end up having to have a week off or whatever. So yeah, I'm super obsessed with consistency. So I managed to maintain a consistent training during the period in which I was finishing my master's project, which is awesome, without getting exhausted. That's a key point. So that was great. The weather was actually really quite good during that period of time for the north of England. And then, oh yeah, handed in my master's project, and then like 2 days later, drove to France, the Alps. Didn't in the van, so we're gonna have some van life for the summer. Didn't get to enter the event that I like to do every year, which is like a week. It's like over a week. It's 4 events over a week, and I love it. It's like my world championships. basically I didn't enter soon enough and the entries were full. So I just did 2 of the events that week, which is actually probably a good thing. I would have loved to do the event and it would have been awesome and I would have been capable of it. But I wasn't really fit enough for it. So did 2 of the shorter events that week that I could get entries for. Saw some people who I tend to see every year on that same campsite, so that was really nice. And then went to a different area of the French Alps that I've never been to before and did a 3-day, was it 3 day? 2-day, yeah, a weekend sort of stage race. So why can't I remember? Oh yeah, that was it. It was like a long Grand Fondo on day 1, and then day 2 there was a race up the Col de la Bonne, which is the highest paved road in Europe, although there apparently is some controversy over which is actually the highest paved road in Europe, so we'll just say it's one of the highest. It's a very high paved road in Europe, so that was awesome. Slash exhausting. And then like 3 days later I went into a completely separate 3-day stage race. By the end of which I was just like hating life and hating cycling and wondering what the hell I was doing, and I was just like riding, like bumping along like I hate my life. I had a massive nosebleed on the final event riding up one of the mountains, and then I was like descending and like banging over potholes and my wrists were hurting, everything was hurting, hating life. And then for the final bit of the race they made you pass what was going to eventually be the finish line, do an extra massive loop that took like an hour and a half or something up a goddamn mountain, and then back up part of the mountain to the finish line. So when I passed, so there were people doing the short event and they finished at that finish line the first time round. So the first time I rode past the finish line, there were loads of people sitting around who'd finished the short event. You don't want to see that when you're exhausted and unhappy. But that feed station, so they have like feed stations where you like drink and they have food and stuff for you so you don't collapse. That was the first one in that entire event where they had Coke. Coke is the saviour of cyclists. It's the cyclist's saviour. And I drank a load of Coke, filled all my bottles with Coke, set up that mountain, and like had the happiest time of the entire day. And actually really enjoyed it. And that part of the climb that I had to ride twice, the first time you ride up it, past the finish line, have to continue. Second time you ride up it. The second time I rode up it like 6 minutes faster than I did the first time. And that's where I lost my Oakleys. Unacceptable. My Oakleys I've had for like 8 years. So this year I've been stung by like 3 bees while cycling. And previously I've been stung by none. So they keep like getting down my top, one stung me on the leg, and one stung me on the head. So I was riding up this climb, it was the final time, so I was like motivated and like going fast for me. Flew into my helmet, something flew into my helmet. And I was like, you know what, I'm sick of getting stung, because the thing is, the stings, it hurts, yes, but it's like a big itchy goddamn red patch on your body for like months after the sting. So I was sick of it and I didn't want another massive red thing on my head. So I took my helmet off while riding. My glasses were on it, didn't realise. My glasses were like over my helmet straps, so they fell off. I look back, they're super old and like battered and had been run over by a car before that was still functional, and actually kind of sad that I've lost them. But actually not really, but kind of. I need to replace them, but I'm never going. Anyway, they fell off. I looked back, I thought about stopping. I should have just stopped. But I thought, you know what, I'm in a race, I'm not going to stop. Didn't stop, can find them later. Lost my Oakleys. Then after that, had a semi-chilled period of time in the Alps in which I like accidentally applied for a PhD. So I just finished my masters. I thought I'll just work freelance for a while, consider my options, have a look at what my options are. Anyway, I was sitting on a French campsite looking at my goddamn options, saw that there was a PhD that still had open deadline in like June when the course starts in like October. Course looked amazing, interdisciplinary, perfect for me, microbiome, metabolism, computational approach as well. That was the actual kicker. Loved the look of it. Applied. 2 weeks later, had an interview, got the PhD position. This was not in the plan. So anyway, we were coming back to the UK for August, which we don't usually do. We're normally in the van in Europe in August. So I was coming back for the whole of August because Ali's parents were going away for like 6 weeks or something, so we were going to stay in their house. It's like a house sit for Ali's parents. So that period of time ended up basically being me stressing out about the fact that I just applied and I got accepted on and said yes to do a PhD in London. Best university in London. I am not a London person. Like, I live in a van, for Christ's sake. So, stressing out. Went to Oban for a week on holiday in Scotland with my family and Ted and my brother's partner's mum. That was awesome. Vaguely stressing the entire time. Also, got a sports scholarship for that university. It's funny because when I finished my masters, I was like, oh, actually, I've been really enjoying the work routine, blah blah blah. And Ali said to me, I give it a year before you've got yourself on something else, like some other program. I bet you won't like chill out forever. Because I was like, you know what? I think I now just need some time to consider my options, etc., etc. Immediately doing a PhD. Sometimes you just got to accept that you're insane and move on. So anyway, accepted my insanity. Decided to move to London the day before my PhD started. Never lived in London. I've been there for like one night ever. I've like been in for a couple of days and one night ever before. Arranged to stay in my friend's flat because she's away all the time. Got there. Decided to drive to London. Had to pick up a key in Croydon. Drive all the way back to Peckham. The drive ended up taking me like 8 hours from where I'm from because it takes so long to drive anywhere across London. Like, don't even bother. I've been talking for 17 minutes. Maybe that whole thing I said at the start about like, oh, you know, I just can't talk. I can't think when I'm speaking. Maybe that's bollocks. Anyway, picked up a key. Finally got into her flat at like 9:30 at night. Ate some food. Actually got some sleep that night, which was like unheard of for me, sleeping in a new place with a new thing happening the next day. Cycled to uni the next day, like with a sat nav from a car in my pocket. Like, you're going the wrong way. I couldn't look at it while I was looking at it while cycling. It kept on like updating itself really slowly because all tall buildings. Eventually got there like 10 minutes late. Arrived 10 minutes late on my first day of uni. Like, what the hell? Anyway, first day went fine. It was all great. But one massive confounding factor, London absolutely stinks. I don't know if any of you have ever been. Who's watching? Whatever. I had no idea that it stinks so much. So, like, basically, after cycling back to her flat, I was like, my eyes were red and streaming. I was like coughing and wheezing. I do have like asthma, but I don't generally have asthma on a day-to-day basis. Like, I'm not constantly wheezing. I don't have to take an inhaler all the time. I was like dying. And then that night I ended up feeling mega nauseous and like I was going to be sick. Long story short, drove home the next day. And then now I'm doing goddamn PhD and only going down to London on Mondays for my meetings. Which is going to have to come to the crunch at some point because I can't do this completely remotely all the time. So my master's degree was remote. I was a distance learning student, so I was doing computational science. So I was like using computational techniques to study biology, basically, biochemistry. So at the moment, what I'm doing at this moment in time is operating in a state of denial that they're going to let me do this remotely and change my project to a completely computational project, despite the fact that is not the project I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be doing lab work. But the thing is, I kind of want to do the lab work, but there's just no way I can live in London. A, it's ridiculously expensive. You can't live outside of London because the annual train ticket for getting a train in and out of London that's only half an hour journey is £4,500. And C, London stinks. I can't live there. When I go down on a Monday, it takes all day Tuesday. I'm coughing and wheezing, and it's not until Wednesday that I actually feel better from the pollution I've been exposed to on a Monday. How is that acceptable? It's not. So anyway, my plan now is, I'm feeling slightly more hopeful because like I'm back at mum's again, because the whole point is I was supposed to be living in London right now, but that is not an option. So Ali and I are going to attempt living in the submarine. And I'm actually getting quite excited about living in the submarine because although it might be completely ridiculous and just definitely not going to work because it's next door to Ali's parents who are like mental, I'm actually excited for the first time in 3 years to have my own space. So I can like put my books in that space and there isn't someone else's crap there, because I've been house sitting and living in a van for that entire time. So I'm going to be able to like actually like decorate a little bit and stuff. I'm actually quite excited. So yeah, that is the summary of my life so far. And I've been talking for 20 minutes now, so I'm going to go. But I just thought I'd do a little vlog update of my life. The end.